Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss things.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Super2. Joining me today is...
A Geek for Fun.
And Steve.
And Steve. So we're doing a review that Steve picked tonight. Steve, what movie were we talking about tonight?
Alright, today we're talking about the 2016 comedy mockumentary musical, Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stoppin'. I thought this would be a fun one to talk about, just kind of as a preamble. Something that I think is really interesting is, like, if you go back before the 2000s and you look at, like, the greatest movies ever made, it's really easy to come up with, like, a top 10 list of greatest movies ever made, and over half of them are comedies. Like, you know, you could do, like, Blazing Saddles, you could do literally any Mel Brooks movie, you could do Back to the Future, you could do just, like, all of these drama comedies that came out between, like, the 60s, 70s, and 80s that are considered some of the greatest movies of all time. And then you get to the 2000s, and, like, every comedy is bad, or, like, every modern comedy has, like, a very sort of niche audience, but you would never think to consider it, like, one of the greatest movies I've ever made. So every now and then, when a comedy comes out that's, like, legitimately good or, like, legitimately funny, I feel like it's fun to talk about because it's such a novelty. Like, we don't get good comedies very often. So I wanted to talk about this because I think this is a really good comedy and I really enjoy it. But I'm also a really big Lonely Island fan, so I'm curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one to watch because I've seen a lot of Lonely Island stuff over the years. I've even seen, like, the Lonely Island failed Fox pilot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I've watched quite a bit of their stuff over the years, especially, like, in the when they had, like, that first album come out in, like, the late 2000s, right before, like, it was like 08, 09, and it, like, really hit big because that was the one that had, like, all the SNL tracks on it and stuff. So this was, you know, quite fun to see because in a way it's also just kind of a summation of what everybody thinks about or how everyone, like, kind of treats them as a group, which is Andy Samberg's really the talent here, right? And it's like, I mean, no, he's a very talented individual, but maybe more of it comes from them than they get credit for.
Yeah, it's a super self-aware comedy, especially if you know their history or you know their music. And it kind of has that fun dimension of, like, it's a mockumentary and it's making fun of that format, but it's also just making fun of, like, the music industry and music biopics, which is something that they do with their songs a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you had any kind of familiarity with them and that you appreciated that.
How about you, Alfie? What are your general thoughts on Pop Star Never Stop, Never Stopping?
I thought it was funny, yeah. I thought there was a lot of really quick jokes that kind of took me off guard by it, because I was familiar with Lonely Island from their YouTube videos and stuff, but I hadn't heard of this before till Steve recommended it, so I was kind of sure, I wasn't sure what kind of form it was going to take, what kind of, like, type of parody it was going to be. But I thought it being like a mockumentary was a really smart choice. I'm always generally a fan of those kind of things. I remember as a kid, the first time I was exposed to something like that was, like, when The Simpsons did one about, like, the behind the creation of The Simpsons things as The Simpsons. And ever since that, I've always found that type of humor really funny, of just, like, the cutaways to, like, random celebrities in this alt reality. I think that's always generally something that gets me going. So I liked a lot of this. I did have a couple problems, and I think that's just kind of inherent to the Lonely Islands type of humor in general. But outside of it, I thought this was definitely funny, and I thought this had some really really funny bits that stick with me.
Yeah. I just want to get this one out of the way right off the bat because I had to like not stop the movie, but almost because it just had me laughing so much. And it's that scene where they're having that really awkward conversation. So he tells the guys to put away the cameras, and then it just goes to subtitles and audio, and then like the fucking bees attack.
You guys got that on camera, right? You told us to stop moving.
That fucking killed me. I was cracking up about that for like
So
hours after watching this fucking movie.
Oh my god, it's the queen! Get the flamethrower!
Fucking set me. It's just like so out of nowhere. Has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. Never brought up again. Just perfect. Oh my god, that one absolutely fucking killed me.
There's a lot of really good bits in this. I want to pick up on what Alfie said about the fake interviews and stuff. Celebrity cameos in this, I think, are honestly insane, and I love all of them, especially because if you're not a music person, you get like half of them or more. Like they are just that in your face about it, and I kind of love that. But then if you are a music person, then there's just like layers upon layers of some of this stuff. I love the fact that Justin Timberlake has a cameo as their chef, and then he gets to be in the fish costume and sing at the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good. My favorite though is really early on when they play the intro song Humble, which is hilarious on its own. And then after the song is over, it cuts to Mariah Carey, and she's like, I really related to that song because I'm the most humble person I know.
Yep.
That's so good. And this is not like a straight cameo, but I did like the cutaway line of like, you want to host the awards because Taylor Swift got arrested for murder.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was like I was kind of surprised because like Alfie, I'd never even heard about this movie before. I did not know that they'd released this, and so I was like the whole time I was trying to kind of place when exactly it came out, which was really funny because he starts the song about raising awareness for the plight of persecution of gay marriage. I'm like, okay, so pre-2015. Then you just get the fucking cutaway. He was talking about it like it was still illegal, and I just fucking lost it at that. So it's like that like added dimension of humor to it for me was really good.
There's a to get a little bit more into the self-awareness bit, because it's hard to talk about comedies because it's hard to not just like quote all the jokes because they're so funny. But and we'll do it again, don't worry. But to get to some of the self-awareness though, part of what I like about this is it's an absurd comedy and it's a mockumentary, and it's going through a lot of the same motions you'd see most music biopics doing. Basically, after This Is Spinal Tap in the 90s and Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story in like 2007, it should have been like a foregone conclusion that like no one should ever make music biopics ever again, because there is no reason to. Those two movies in and of themselves are an argument for why we should never make these fucking movies again, because they're so funny. And then this, I feel like, creates a third one in that trilogy of movies that make fun of music biopics. And the thing I really like about what this one adds to that is that it combines the mockumentary with the music biopic dimension, and Connor as a character goes on like a very cliche arc, and the resolution at the end of the day is still kind of nonsensical, because that song they have at the end, when they perform as the Style Boys again, and they're just talking about incredible thoughts, and they got lines like, what if a garbage man was actually smart? There's a level of like throwing themselves under the bus that this movie has all the way through, because it's premised on the idea that Andy Samberg's the star, even though he's probably not the one writing all the best jokes, and so that's the conflict for the whole movie. But even when they get the group back together and they're on stage, they're having fun and people are enjoying it, but they're still not like particularly good. Like they are a throwback to what people used to like when they were kids, and it's fun, it's energetic, and it's exciting, but like there's still that sort of awareness of like these guys are fucking idiots, and they're just on stage talking about things that are extremely simple. And at the end of the day, that's just kind of the essence of a lot of pop music, which is, can you make extremely obvious observations and throw them out in people's faces in ways that sound clever, that mystify the fact that it is actually very simple, in a lot of ways very dumb. And that's part of what the charm of Lonely Island in general is they do a lot of parody songs, but if the lyrics weren't parodies, the songs would actually be kind of hype on their own.
Mhm.
The Bin Laden song in this, I think, is like one of the funniest things anyone's ever done as a parody song, and unironically, it's kind of a banger. Like, I actually, like, in my day-to-day life, listen to that song on a regular basis. It's good. Like, it's just a good song.
I went and got the Blu-ray of this from the library, so I didn't have to pay for it, because movies are expensive, and
It's true.
and like that is both a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing because I got to see like the extended music videos for some of the stuff that like didn't make the cut.
Nice.
Fuck Off was a pretty good one. Tell my mom and dad you can go fuck off. Tell my teacher you can go fuck off. It was pretty good. But then also you get the music video for Legalize It, which is usually about like, you know, marijuana or whatever, but this time it was about crack, and that was but it's still like a Rastafari like, fucking exactly like what you would expect a song like Legalize It to be, but it's just about crack. It was just really, really amusing. So I got like some great dimension in that. The downside was, because it was a fucking library disc, I just like lost, you know, sections of the movie where it just could not play and like skip to the next chapter. And unfortunately a lot of that was the final like big song out in front of everybody. But it's okay because I saw Justin Timberlake in the fish costume. So I think I got the gist of everything.
You did get the gist of it. I like that you got the bonus songs, because the theatrical release movie has a lot of like bits where you hear the songs he's performing on stage, but the music videos are so good. Like the Mona Lisa song is hilarious. But my favorite that doesn't make the full movie is Things in My Jeep, when they're talking about the other guy like trying to have a solo career and not working out, and he's just singing about the things in his Jeep. The joke in the movie is still really funny because they list off the things and then they cut to that guy talking, and he's like, I didn't relate to that song because I've got different things in my Jeep. But that song features Linkin Park, and it's kind of great.
Oh man, that's pretty good. Alfie, you're too quiet. Talk about the movie. Contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, the parody songs especially that got me were the gay rights one for sure was the first one that got me really laughing at this, and then the Bin Laden one was just so fucking ridiculous.
I love that one so much.
Those two were definitely the highlights of the movie for me, and getting me to laugh.
Cool. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Andy Samberg as an actor in this? Because he's clearly like just doing like a skit for 90 minutes, but do you think he's good?
I mean, I think Andy Samberg is one of those people who's just very, very fun to watch, and is, like they kind of point out in the movie, just the charismatic one. You know, I don't really like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but I see clips from it, and I kind of get what people are into about it, and a lot of it I do think just kind of doesn't necessarily ride on the quality of the writing, but it's just on the quality of in particular his performance, which is kind of crazy to put someone in a like cast with like fucking Terry Crews and be able to still be the funnest person to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like just fucking fascinating. So yeah, I think Andy Samberg, I can just watch that dude all day. He's just naturally really like a funny personality. You kind of earlier you talked about like a lot of classic comedies, and I think the root of why you don't have as many comedies kind of reaching the same caliber as film as you used to is because there's not like a lot of like comedians that are like film comedians. 80s kind of had a real revival and surge in stand-up, and that's what like everyone doing comedy kind of gravitated to and started to like really go hard on. And so like film has kind of suffered for that, I think. And this is just me fucking spitballing, I don't have any evidence. But I think that's kind of why, and I think Andy Samberg may be one of those few people who just kind of can hold water to like comedic stardom, like your old like Bob Hopes and shit. Like he's one of the few people I can name for just consistently being in funny stuff as a leading man. Fucking the last time anyone was doing that was like what, Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, I mean, and you're also talking about like the last really good class of comedians on SNL, right? Like Andy Samberg leaves, and that show's viewership declines pretty heavily after that. But like, he's in the same class as people like Bill Hader, who also cameos in this movie. And you see all of those guys after they left SNL going on to doing their own things, and the things that they're doing are all like really legitimately great. Like Bill Hader's got that show on HBO that just wrapped up last year, Barry, and Barry is phenomenal. It's like one of the best TV shows I've ever seen.
But it's not really
and
a
Andy
comedy,
Samberg's
is it? Like it
starts as a comedy.
Okay, it starts as like
starts
dark
as a
humor.
comedy.
Okay, when you say that, see, I feel like this is the problem. You want to know why comedy has dried up is because fucking we're not actually making comedies anymore. We're making dramedies. Because I feel like Barry, when I heard it being talked about, was the same like caliber of comedy as like Orange is the New Black, where it's like, yeah, it's got funny scenes, but it's mostly just sad. Is that accurate to Barry at all?
I wouldn't compare it to Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
I think the first season is legitimately actually like really funny. It's just kind of an absurd setup, and it just gets darker as it goes on.
Okay.
But I think part of why Barry works because it fits into that old scheme of a dramedy is kind of what we did more of, and that's why they ended up working. Like you look at movies like Ghostbusters or Back to the Future, or even like Men in Black, and they are like really, really funny movies. But there are like deeper character relationships at the center of it. There is drama that happens in the movies. It's just that the comedy is sort of the more driving force around it. And when Barry starts, it is legitimately funny because like the whole premise is a hitman doesn't want to be a hitman anymore, so he decides to be an actor, but he sucks. And then it goes from that to being like this really dark crime series, but it's still got like that absurd humor element. Andy Samberg's on the other end of that spectrum, though, where I think he does just kind of revel in the flat-out comedy. He did a movie after Popstar that came out just a couple years ago. It actually came out in 2020, and it was called Palm Springs. And Palm Springs was one of those movies where when it hit, no one had any expectations for it. But because it hit during COVID, it became like one of the best movies of 2020 because everyone was in lockdown, and it's a movie about Andy Samberg being Groundhog Day'd in one location. So he's just trapped at a wedding, and he's reliving the same day over and over and over again, and he's just learned to accept it by basically day drinking the whole night away and figuring out what kind of weird stuff he could get into. And there's drama at the heart of it, but it kind of captured this zeitgeist of everyone being restless in their house that was so perfect for 2020 that it kind of catapulted up to a lot of people's best movies of 2020 list just because it was so timely. But his like style of comedy is a lot more absurdist, and I think he has a lot of charisma and he's really magnetic, so those kinds of things work. He can give you more dramatic performances when he wants to, but he sort of relishes more in like those man-child roles, because I think the bit here in Popstar when his turtle is dying, that bit is really funny, but it's also kind of sad and pathetic because the poor turtle is just throwing up on him. And you kind of feel for Connor, but you feel for him in a like child way.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think it's interesting because they do make a case for it, and like this is like 90% comedy, but does actually have character arcs and some human drama in there. And I think the character that like best sums up Connor is the manager when he talks about how because he's been famous for like all of his adult life, he's never really had opportunities to grow and learn from adversity, so he doesn't really have any idea of like how to deal with those emotions. And then so you get like that really great pointed like analysis of the character, and then to highlight it, you just get the most ridiculous shit in the world where he just literal man child's like throws a temper tantrum over some shit. So like I really like the way that that's integrated. It makes for a compelling and really fun character study in that way.
Yeah, and I think when they all go to the farm, and Connor apologizes, and they start like bonding over like making music again. I think that scene's like legitimately very good and really wholesome. I think you really do get the sense that they all have chemistry with each other, that they've all been friends for their entire lives, because they have and do. Because that's basically what Lonely Island is. And I think in that moment, like, if the human drama up to that point wasn't working, that scene could feel kind of out of place. But I think it does kind of sell that. And it is actually kind of sweet and sincere for a second when Connor decides not to do the show so he could hang out with his friends. And then they convince him otherwise, because they're like, it's not that we don't want you to succeed. It's just don't forget your friends.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was good as well. I did think it was one of those things where we started to lose a little bit of steam as the movie kept going on towards the end, as I did think a lot of the stronger stuff, and this was something I said up top with like the Lonely Island style of humor. I think it is a comedy style that is better suited to those short bursts you would get in a YouTube video than necessarily a movie. Like I can, after seeing this, because beforehand I was kind of, oh, I've never heard of this. I know Lonely Island. I know a lot of people who really like Lonely Island. I think this is just something that a lot of like YouTube comedians have really struggled with. Game Grumps had a similar kind of thing when they made their like YouTube Red show called Good Game, which was kind of similar. Like they've played themselves but having like a jokey mockumentary style to it. Is I think it's a lot that writing comedy and writing jokes for a film as opposed to shorter like 10-minute 5-minute YouTube songs, I think can really help with pacing. And this was something that I think they didn't, at least for me at least, they didn't quite crack for me, as I did start to feel the runtime pretty sharply once we got past like the 40-minute mark, and the jokes just weren't hitting as much. But I appreciated the effort of like, that's also when they started to slow down and bring in some more of the character work to the front again. And maybe they kind of recognize that. Maybe they're kind of like, look, if we don't have anything going on here, it's still funny, but when trying to actually have some kind of story here, it would fall flat. But that was my experience with it, at least.
I guess I kind of see what you're coming for, and I almost had the experience you were talking about, where like I some of the jokes would start to like not quite land for me, or I was like, okay, this one isn't that funny. But then just anytime I started to like feel that kind of dip, there would just be something that would happen that would just have me cracking up again. Because I feel like there's like, this is what Mel Brooks does with his movies that I think is just so impressive, where any single joke might not be all that funny in and of itself, but he just throws so many jokes at you over and over and over again and doesn't really give you a lot of time to breathe or recover, and that ends up being just a very effective formula. So I kind of think that's what happens here, is just some of the jokes maybe aren't the best, but then they just keep coming, and then you end up landing on, or you end up getting one that just lands really, really hard. Like for me, one of the times it was starting to kind of get like a little old, it wasn't getting as funny, and it wasn't so much the scene of him doing the quick changes and having his dick tucked. Like, that was funny in and of itself, right? But for me, it was just more like all the conversation and like everything that played out after it just got funnier and funnier because no one would let it go.
Because I didn't believe he had a dick.
Right?
Yeah.
So like that's an example for me where I'm like, that joke in and of itself didn't really hit, but the fact that like they stayed on it for so long, and it's just like the way it builds to a conclusion of, all right, I'm gonna go tweet out a picture of my dick. Don't actually do that. Like that's just so like it could have ended at, I'm gonna go tweet out a picture of my dick. And then, like, you could have cut, but then you get the Sarah Silverman, like, please don't actually do that. Was just really, really good.
Yeah, I kind of had the same experience where anytime I felt like the movie was slowing down in pace, there would always be like a joke that brings me right back into it. I think the character and the actor that's most hit or miss for me is Hunter the Hungry, because he's got some legitimately really good scenes and really funny moments, like in the Dick Tuck scene where he's messing with him about whether or not he's the one who pulled the prank and sabotaged him, and he's giving him like the crazy eyes. I think that's really funny. But he's got bits in here and there where I just sort of feel like he's either doesn't have to like the right chemistry with Andy Samberg, or they're just playing on two different wavelengths. Because he individually is good, and Sandberg individually is good, but I don't feel a ton when they're in conflict. Like the scene where they're on stage together and they're singing at the same time. That's an interesting one because you get to hear them like overlap singing at the same time. But more of the jokes and the focus of the scene is like on the other people watching them fumble. And that kind of spoke to me as in a second of like, maybe these two guys just don't play off each other very well. Because it's a very good idea. And you could even kind of make the argument that maybe that's the point, right? Like they bring this guy in who doesn't jive with Connor at all. And so every time they're together, it just kind of feels like a mishmash and it doesn't hit. And that's fair. But I feel like the comedy in those bits sometimes can be a little bit hit and miss for me.
It's interesting because the actor is also a SNL alum, but it looks like he didn't get SNL until after this movie because he started in 2017. It was bothering the shit out of me because I kept like feeling like I recognized the dude, but then I got to the end, and looked at the credits, and I'm like, I don't recognize the name at all. And now I'm just going through his IMDb and trying to see where I remember him from, and nothing's really standing out to me. This is weird. He must just have one of those faces.
He's very good. Like, I think he's legitimately good in the role, and he's got good lines, and he's got like the perfect quintessential crazy face. It's just, I think it's just the chemistry with Sandberg that doesn't work.
Yeah, and like maybe that's part of like playing the role a little too well.
Yeah.
Is the fact that like those two characters are supposed to be like butt the heads a little bit, and have just competing energies. And like maybe it just comes off a little too well, and like the fact that they're not supposed to actually have much chemistry together, just I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that certainly could be a reading of it. I will say I really like his song that he gets to play a couple of times. I think that's really fun. A lot of the lyrics in all of the parody songs in this, I think, are really fun and sometimes are legitimately kind of clever. I love that the Lonely Islanders just made a career out of having cameos with Michael Bolton. That's just great. It's the best thing ever.
It is one of those just like unexpected gems, isn't it?
The fucking Jack Sparrow song, man, is so fucking funny. I know it's not in this movie, but that's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen.
I like that one a lot. It's no Dick in a Box, but it's up there.
It's no Dick in a Box. It's no Bin Laden. But it's really good. Other thoughts on the movie. A lot of the cameos in this, not even necessarily the music related ones, but just like other comedians and stuff, I thought a lot of those played really well. You remember the scene with he's proposing to his girlfriend and he gets wolves and seal to perform, which is nuts on its own. The stuff with seal is really good, but like then there's like the wolves who apparently start howling when seal performs, and then there's that one bald guy who talks to the manager and he's like, "You got to get seal to stop singing. The wolves don't like it." That's Paul Scheer, who's a comedic actor, and he's been on Adult Swim and stuff. but he also co-hosts a movie podcast I listen to on a weekly basis. And he is really, really knowledgeable about movie history and really like advocates for putting good comedies in the list of greatest films of all time. So seeing him in this movie is kind of fun. It was also fun to get like other random cameos here and there, like Weird Al's in it for a scene. Emma Stone is in it for a scene where she plays the woman in the music video where Connor has his catchphrase verse. That was pretty fucking great.
I do love a cameo fest. Like, what was it, fucking... It's not a good movie, but like Movie 43 was just built on being the thing that was going to have like all the A-list stars in it. And honestly, there's just something super fun about like, oh, they fucking got this guy in it. I always do really appreciate that. So it was pretty nuts. And the number of musicians in here and like the fact that all of them actually played it pretty good, you know? I didn't expect DJ Khaled to be a very accomplished actor, but he plays it pretty solid. Like, I mean, how hard is it to play yourself? But at the same time, it can be a little hard. So I thought that was pretty good.
I did you notice the Martin Sheen one?
Yeah, where he gets his shit rocked by Martin Sheen.
that scene is so good. Yeah, the cameos in this are a lot of fun. The musical interviews are great because, yeah, they're all playing it really straight, and they're all just saying, like, the most ridiculous things in the world. How everyone is just loving that, like, that donkey roll thing. And everyone is so convincing about how that's, like, the greatest music video ever.
Oh, man, Donkey Roll. That was, like, my childhood.
That raised me.
Fucking Ringo Starr is on that shit. I love it.
I also really like the EDM helmet.
Oh yeah,
that was
the Hans Zimmer boom.
Yeah, and just the fact that like the second it's introduced, I'm just waiting for it to go wrong, and then when the fucking quick change goes wrong, and then it's just fucking falling all over the stage, and has the helmet like blind the crowd. That's really good. It paid off very well.
It's not a very deep movie, but I love the hell out of this movie. I think it's great.
Yeah, like you said, comedies are always kind of harder to review without just going through and repeating all the jokes. And we've definitely done that here, and I'm sorry. That's usually one of the rules I try not to... That's one of the rules I try to follow when we review comedies. It's like, okay, don't just repeat all the jokes. But unfortunately, a lot of this movie just is, like, by its nature, nothing but jokes. Like, there is a character arc here, there is a journey, there is commentary, and there are interesting things to talk about. But it's just so fundamental to how they joke about it, and, like, how they make those moments into jokes. There's no, like, okay, this is the funny parts of the movie. Because the whole movie is the funny parts. And, like, all of them are just tied into this really good gag that they managed to work in. Oddly enough, you mentioned Walk Hard earlier, and I think I would have an easier time talking about how that movie works without talking about all the jokes than I did with this one. And also funny because Tim Meadows is in both of them.
Walk Hard is another one I considered us talking about because I was kind of in the mood to talk about a comedy. Walk Hard is one of those movies, though, where it takes itself so seriously in how ridiculous it is that when you watch it, it's like they decided to just write a straight music biopic with every conceivable cliche that you possibly could. And if it wasn't played for laughs, it would just be like an Oscar bait movie like Maestro or something from last year. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what's so brilliant about it, where it's like, show me on paper structurally where the difference is between this and like any music biopic you've ever seen.
No, I mean, it's the ultimate send-up in a lot of ways. Then it's got some just banger songs. Let's Duet. I love it. Yeah. But this one, I don't know, this one just kind of works on a different level, and again, it's just joke, so it's, it just hits in a different way. I think it's really fun to, I think it's really fun how they play with with that in regards to the rap game kind of thing. That's just really amusing. The like just seeing these very accomplished black rappers talk about how they were inspired by like the Beastie Boys. It's just really amusing in and of itself.
The movie never takes the Style Boys particularly seriously, which is part of the fun, because like every time you hear someone talk about how great they are, you're always cutting to them doing something that's either really dumb or really ridiculous. And that kind of like industry-wide celebratory idea of like pop artists as always being revolutionary and amazing, and at the end of the day they are just kind of like these weird repetitive cycles of the same jokes over and over again. That dimension of the movie I really like because it really works well as a parody of that. I've got nothing against pop artists necessarily, but like you listen to like a Dua Lipa song, right? And it doesn't matter what it is, it always sounds like the most generic, overproduced thing ever, every time. Where it's just got like a catchy rhyme scheme, and like a really good hook, and then everything else is just overproduced crap of the same beats over and over and over again, and everyone always talks about it like it's the greatest music ever. And I'm sure it's entertaining for some people, but getting that made fun of here in this movie, where they do that with Popstar, and every song is playing off the same sort of like expectations of like, here's the pop song that's about a social issue, here's the pop song that's supposed to be like a sexy song but it's also like deeply American, and every time they do that it's taking that to its furthest, most extreme conclusion. I genuinely really like that about that movie. I think the secret to what makes Lonely Island really good as music parody, even better than someone like Weird Al sometimes, is even though their songs are parodies, they are working hard to make songs that are actually well made. The music is good, the beats are good, their singing and their commitment to the bit is always good. It's kind of like what everyone loved about I'm Just Ken from the Barbie movie, where no one's talking about that as like a musically deep song, but the commitment to making it entertaining is so there that you can't help but love it.
I'd agree. It's just a good time. They have a lot of fun in this movie, and you just kind of can't help but have a lot of fun watching it. So, yeah. I don't know. Unfortunately, I just don't think I've got much else to talk about with this one, though. It's
difficult when it's just like, again, like it's a movie with really good jokes that are coming at you so much at once. You've really got left space for is the jokes. Like there's not much else to have about that. It does one thing really, really, really well. But that means it's once you've discussed that one thing, there's not much else to go.
How did everyone feel about the scene with the dude's dick pressed up against the window? Was that a good time
that
for
was funny as fuck. That was so fucking funny. I love how they continue to argue while he like sanitizes his hands and shit. So funny.
Some beautiful fucking titties. That's what I get. That's part of being famous. You know, just flaccid cock pressed up against the window. Oh, killed me. Okay, I think we're good.
Oh, I love it.
All right. Is it my turn for next week?
I think so, because Alfie did Dragon Ball and I did this.
Okay, so we'll do ratings real quick, and I think I've got my topic. So I'll give Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping 5 out of 5. Rastafarian songs about crack.
I'll give Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping 5 out of 5 girls who want me to fuck them like we fucked Bin Laden.
I'll give Popstar Never Stop, Never Stopping -4
Damn.
out of 10 rating. There must have been some kind of like mistake. Like Alfie just There was a glitch. Like, they're just... Hold on, let me check the onion reel.
Oh, here's a good one. It's from The Onion.
Mixed reviews. I feel like that's how, like, Sony figures out their Spider-Man movie reviews. Like, yeah, it was mixed. You know, you had some pretentious critics, had some people give it fair reviews.
See, you talk about the -4 out of 10. I was fucking losing it over the shit emoji out of 5 stars.
Shit emoji, yeah.
No, it actually checks for how they're talking about this. Maybe this is one of those movies we shouldn't have reviewed. We should have done a commentary on where we all just watched it together. Maybe. That would have been fun.
All right. So my topic, Steve and I were kind of talking the other week about something Star Wars. I think it was maybe the Dooku episode where I kind of came up with this, and I do like it, so we're gonna run with it. So there's like 1 billion of these out there on the internet. So I want to be unique. But we're going to do a what if we rewrote the prequels kind of podcast. We're just going to talk about like reworking the Star Wars prequels. But the caveat that I want to use to make it distinct is I want to pretend that the prequels as they are never existed. And the only thing you have to go off of for what you would do is what is hinted at and referenced and talked about in the original trilogy of films.
No EU or anything?
Yeah, no EU, nothing. Nothing else to be like exemplary things. If you want to say like, okay, I like this thing from the old EU before we even had the prequels, and I want to integrate
That's
it,
what I was gonna ask.
that's fine.
Like...
Though, you know, points for originality, if you want to take inspiration from that stuff, but yes, you can use that like old ancient EU shit if you want, but
for all novels and stuff.
Yeah, but I do think just primary source here is those little nuggets of information you get in the original trilogy. So
yeah,
that
sounds fun.
Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do next time. Is we're gonna rewrite the Star Wars prequels, and I'm sure it'll be the most original video on the internet.
Hey, Star Wars discourse gets you views, though. Don't knock it.
You know, you'd say that, but this fucking Count Dooku episode, nobody watched it. I can't imagine why. He's like everybody's favorite character.
He's the greatest character in the prequels. What do you mean no one watched
should
it?
Be. I love Count Dooku.
Count Dooku's awesome. Fucking love that dude. He's just an 80-year-old man with a tilted lightsaber. It's great.
Sometimes they have a curve. It's perfectly natural. Alright. Everyone, thanks so much for watching. Until next time, I'm the Philosopher.
I am the champion of the Lonely Island.
And I threw it on the ground.
And we're your geeky gentlemen, and we will be discussing things.